Hi, so I'm here with Cici Andersen, who's the makeup department head for Together Together, which just premiered at Sundance. And you've also done work on Mulan and a bunch of other things. And you also are doing work right now on your face. Um,
Hi. Yes, thank you for having me. I honestly lost track of time and I'm creating a Byzantine inspired mosaic on my face, which you can catch on TikTok probably this week.
what's your TikTok handle?
My TikTok handle is Cici Andersen, and that's Anderson with an EN. EN at the end.
Okay, I'll remember that. I'm gonna watch out for this. Um, so to get us started, this is a bit of a big question, but what drew you initially to become a makeup artist?
So I actually took an aptitude test in high school, and um, I think it was just pretty much like you're an artist and you're just going to have to find a way to deal with that because I got things like you could be a graphic designer, you could be a teacher, you could be and it said special effects makeup artist. Um, and I got some of these pamphlets for these special effects makeup schools here in California in the mail, and I was living in Maryland at the time, and I just held on to one of those for I think 6 years after I graduated, and
Hmm.
I had gone to college, dropped out of college, became a hairdresser, and then just came back around to it years later and just said, I still really want to do this.
Yeah, that's so cool. Um, so how did you get involved for doing the makeup for Together Together?
So before I answer that question, I just want to clarify that for
Yeah.
Mulan, actually, I worked just a few days on that movie
Hmm.
thanks to James McKinnon, who brought me on to work some background for that. And yeah, I just want to clarify because there's so many artists that work so many more days on that movie, and I really just had a very small part in it. But for Together Together, I I was given the script by my friend Toby Louie, who's also the producer of one of the producers on the movie, and he said, I think you'd be really good for this. I'd like you to read the script. And so I loved the idea of doing kind of this. It felt like a romantic comedy, except for at moments it's not that funny. Like sometimes
Hmm.
it gets very very serious, and it without giving too much away, it's a kind of will they won't they type situation. And I was like, I've just never done anything like this before, and I'd really like to do it. The script was just very moving to me personally, especially because it touches on some things that I was going through at the time personally.
Hmm. So when you were working on Together Together, um, how much do you collaborate with the other departments like lighting or costuming, etc., before you arrive at the final look for everyone?
There's quite a bit of collaboration that goes into any movie, but especially Together Together, I think we had like 3 weeks to prepare, and there was a lot of back and forth with the wardrobe department because we had to coordinate the stages of pregnancy. And so
Mm-hmm.
some of the bellies that you see on Patty Harrison, who plays Anna, those are costumes bellies that are kind of made of this padding. And
Mm-hmm.
then the one where you see skin, that's my department. And so we had commissioned a belly that kind of didn't end up working out, so we had to I had to call like every shop in town to see if anybody had a spare pregnancy belly that we could rent.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and it just happened to be on the week where apparently everybody was shooting their pregnancy movie. So like there wasn't any. And I just got a lead on one at Tinsley Studio. They rushed it over. I had to repaint it between scenes. I actually skipped my lunch, I think, one day so I could repaint this belly so it'd be ready for the
Oh
next
my God.
shot. And yeah, I mean, that was kind of what the movie was like. We had all the preparation, and then we weren't prepared for the things that kind of like we were blindsided a little bit with
Mm-hmm.
things we couldn't prepare for. So, but I think that's every project.
Yeah, always happens.
Yeah.
Um, so what was I don't know how to phrase this properly, but I guess what was your overall vision for the look of the movie and how you wanted it to appear on screen?
So it takes place in modern day, and
Mm,
Nicole Beckwith, who the director, she had a very clear vision herself about what she wanted it to look like, and you know, it did have like an indie vibe to it.
mm,
It just from the get go, it just was very much about like a girl, in her 20s who doesn't try that hard. I mean, she's not like the Instagram girl, she's not doing like a cut crease every day, but she does when she wants to present herself a certain way, she might reach for that lipstick or reach for that mascara. And that played actually the lipstick played a big part in Anna's character where you could kind of tell when she was like trying, like she was like almost like it felt kind of forced. She was like trying to present herself a certain way. In certain scenes, like when she in the opening scene where she's interviewing for the position of surrogate, and then later in the movie, as she gets more pregnant and like a little bit more uncomfortable, you can kind of see the way that she's slightly more disheveled, not putting so much effort into her look. Um, but really, it's all about the subtleties because
mm-hmm.
I think the biggest things that we did for the movie in the makeup department was the pregnancy belly. We did some tattoos on Julio Torres, who played Jules. And that was a feat in of itself because Nicole really wanted to try these henna tattoos, which is really different than how we traditionally do tattoos in movies, which is like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a tattoo transfer or kind of like a lick 'em stick 'em type situation. Um, and if you mess up a henna tattoo, you really can't like you really can't fix it because it's permanently staining the skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat around and tattooed myself and my all of my legs.
Oh my gosh.
And I had henna on my legs for a good month and a half, and Julio and I actually had matching tattoos, whether he knows that or not.
So you going back to what you're talking about, like with the pregnancy belly and everything. So that's more of a like a special effects makeup, I guess.
Mhm.
So what exactly, I mean, how much of that do you do, I guess? And what is that, how does that differ from just normal like face makeup, just in terms of preparation and everything?
It's funny. I almost feel like special effects makeup and regular makeup should be two different jobs.
Yeah,
um,
I was surprised when you started talking about the pregnancy belly. Like it didn't even connect in my mind that that also would have been you.
it falls
But I
under
mean,
makeup, and
yeah.
the funny thing is, so does anything that goes on the hands. So like nail polish, and any kind of cut or bruise or anything that would happen with
Mm-hmm.
the hands also falls under makeup. I started out in special effects. I actually moved here to learn special effects in school. I apprenticed at a special effects lab, so it wasn't terribly hard for me to ease into that for together. But it is different because I think when you're doing a makeup, like a beauty makeup for film, it's really about the makeup being slightly undetectable
Mm-hmm.
unless it's something that you want to show up on camera. Like yes, she's wearing a red lip, or like yes, she's wearing liner or something. But for the most part, we try to keep it so it's not distracting from the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think special effects is very much about creating this other creature or this other effect that is adding to the narrative.
What's the what's the weirdest or I guess your favorite special effects makeup that you've done?
Oh man. I would say the coolest thing that I've gotten to work on that falls under special effects is I did some conservation and restoration of some movie props for the Prop House of London when I was working at Makeup and Monsters. And my mentor, Brian Pennicus, he led a group of five of us into restoring. I think we did like 18 gremlins from Gremlins 2. We
Oh my
did
God, that's awesome.
Edward Scissorhands' hands. We did some aliens from the Aliens trilogy. Like, I mean, that was gold. Like, I was just learning how to do this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I get to handle all this stuff. It was very, very cool. And honestly, it was an invaluable learning experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is like really blowing my mind. Like just thinking about like you have a much bigger job than I think a lot of people assume when they just, like thinking about all the special effects and everything. I'm very intrigued. I think that's super neat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like some people may not realize that makeup artists have quite a bag of tricks.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, look at you right now, clearly.
I
Oh
literally have eggshells glued to my face in place of mosaic tiles. I
my
mean,
gosh, those are
we get pretty
eggshells?
creative. They are
Wow.
eggshells. I've got like my little bowl.
Oh my God. Wow. I mean, like, they look really cool. I never would have guessed. So good job.
Thank you.
So, uh, when you're working, I mean, I know you said you only did a few days on Mulan, but and you were talking about so together, has a more indie vibe. And aside just for the makeup look and not the makeup special effects, it was more supposed, like understated, I guess. So how do you approach something like that versus something that requires like a big preparation? The, you know, example I have in my head is Mulan, just because, that looks, I feel like
It's
those are very different requirements.
yeah. So what am I going to say for this? So I feel that together, I designed that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work with the director, the producers, the actors, and really understand it from the inside out. And so when I hire my team to come on, I already kind of have a blueprint of what every scene is going to look, or what the makeups for every scene is going to look like. The continuity kind of is laid out in my head.
Mm-hmm.
When I go on to somebody else's project, or I get invited to just come in and do background like I did on Mulan, it is different because it's somebody else's visions, and it's a collaborative effort between that department head and that team, and they've kind of have it planned out for you. So you walk in, and I mean, the sets are enormous. Mulan's probably the biggest thing I've ever worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a board where they'll brief you at the beginning of the day and say, like, this is the makeup that you're doing for the day. This is kind of how dirty, clean, glam, whatever we want them to look. And here are your elements that you're going to work with. So sometimes it might be a beard or a mustache or a pregnancy belly, and then that artist who is invited to set has to adapt to whatever's happening that day.
Mm-hmm.
It's very exciting because every day is different.
Yeah. So what, in your opinion, makes makeup art? Because I mean, clearly it is art. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, like what you've done to your face just right now is like so cool, and it's a mosaic. It's like it's art. But in your words, what makes makeup art?
um, I think that when I go into creating a makeup, whether it's beauty, like just simple, like everyday beauty, or if it's like literally just like a work of art or creative
Mm-hmm.
piece, um, you really channel something that's, I think, kind of ancient and very human. It's like a very human instinct to want to create something. And it I feel like makeup's been around for 1,000 years, and it's a sort of magic. It's like you're invoking this feeling that is that it's like put on you. I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but it's like putting on like a invisible cloak if you want to, or like a very scary mask that makes you appear better or bigger than you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so it gives you a sort of power. And that's, I think, what I love about it, because it's also what I find in traditional fine art, is that you can create kind of whatever you want.
Yeah, it's kind of like a story and microcosm or something. Um.
Yeah, it's a very ancient kind of storytelling in a way.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it that way, you can kind of create an image that you can kind of invent your own, like, past, future, present, depending on what you're looking like that day.
So you mentioned your YouTube channel earlier. That might have been before I started recording. If that is, apologies. But on your YouTube channel, so as you were talking about, you have a series where you talk about the history of makeup, and so how can we learn about historical context and cultural context through makeup, and what drew you to that, to exploring the historical background?
So there was or still is, a makeup artist named Lisa Eldridge who is pretty big on YouTube and also on Instagram. And she put out a video many, many years ago about her vintage collection.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think, 2014 or something like that. And I was just so in love with what she was talking about because I had a few pieces that I had collected at flea markets. Didn't realize that other people collected as well. Didn't realize that there was all this history behind it that I could learn about. And I think I went from having 3 pieces of vintage makeup to now I think I have like almost 200 pieces
Oh my
of
God.
vintage from different eras. So I have one. I think my oldest piece is from the 1870s, and I have it
Wow.
all the way to the 1990s. Um, and the more I started to like go into the history of the brands, like just the brands themselves can tell you so much about what's going on culturally. I really feel that the history of makeup is also women's history
Mm-hmm.
because for a really big chunk of time, our narrative was just like not talked about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's just something that we don't really record, or we didn't ask women how they were feeling or what they
Mm-hmm.
wanted out of life. But you can see it in the way that you're advertised to, or in different periods, whether or not women were allowed to express themselves through makeup. But I think that that goes even deeper into male and female as well, because if you go all the way back to ancient Egypt, both men and women wore makeup. So did the Vikings, actually. They both wore
Really?
eyeliner, and yeah. And so, and those societies also happen to be the most like they had the most equal rights,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is really interesting, that there's a direct correlation between self-expression through makeup and what's happening in society at the time.
Yeah.
So just learning those kinds of things, I couldn't get enough.
Do you have a favorite era of makeup or one that you're particularly interested in?
Well, right now I'm studying the like classical antiquity. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that sounds real nerdy. I just realized. But yeah, I'm kind of studying like ancient Rome, the Etruscan. This is going back to like my art history training,
Mm-hmm.
and clearly Byzantine, and trying to see what they were making cosmetics out of back then. I've been watching also. This has been such a great year for period pieces in general. I mean, like The Crown came out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of like what other, Bridgerton,
Yeah.
Hollywood, Miss America, right? Like all these
Mm-hmm.
different shows came out that were all period pieces. Um, and I like die to work on those shows. Those would be amazing to work on.
Mm-hmm. No kidding. How do you I mean, how do you find information on makeup in like classical antiquity makeup? I don't know. I feel like that would be really difficult to do.
um, yeah, yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest. I have a few books that I've collected over the years,
Mm-hmm.
but you know, the Smithsonian and mostly museums keep track of this kind of stuff. You'll be able to find like bits and pieces about, you know, this, they had these kinds of containers, and they had these kinds of pigments available. You know, in the museum or whatever uh, historian is talking through the medium, whether it's a podcast or if it's a book or if it's just a blog. They'll be telling you about what they believe it was used for, but of course nobody really knows.
Right.
So um so things are subject to change. I was just reading about something that they had found in an ancient Roman archaeological site, and they thought that it was some sort of art tool, and it ended up being an eyeliner applicator.
Awesome.
So I was like, that's really cool. That's
Awesome.
I wouldn't know what I was looking at, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Do you from either antiquity or the modern era, do you have a certain favorite makeup tool or anything?
Do I have a favorite makeup tool? Are you talking about like through my collection?
Yeah, in your collection. I don't know
In my
very much about
collection.
makeup, so I would
Oh, I feel like I didn't even answer your last question. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know
you
if I
can
have
keep
a
talking about
favorite.
that if you want. That was so
Oh yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if I have a favorite era. I love all of it. And
Mhm.
but I do like when I get to have a lot of makeup on. So I would say,
Yeah.
you know, like George, like, you know, like Georgian makeup is beautiful. I would love to do a 1960s look
Mhm.
any day of the week because it's just the cool makeup to do. Victorian era, maybe a little boring, you know.
Yeah,
It's like, oh,
yeah.
but you know,
They were really repressed. It's okay.
yeah, it's just like not a lot of makeup happening.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to study, but not so great to like apply.
Mhm.
um, but out of my collection, I would say my favorite piece is an eyelash curler that I found. Sorry, did I say that right? Eyelash curler that I found on eBay that I believe may have been one of the first curlers to be invented. I
Wow.
think it's a patent pending eyelash thing, and the person that owned it, it was her grandmother's, and her grandmother passed away in 1992. She like wrote me a letter and told me all about it.
Oh my
So,
god.
and I was just like, man, like that's so cool because you know, just having studied as much as I have now about makeup, I was able to tell from the rubber on the tip. I was like, this it probably dates back to about 1920 or maybe
Mhm.
1930, but this is definitely like a patent for something else that looks a lot like a tweezer that also came out at the time from Curlash. And Curlash is a vintage brand that no longer exists, but they actually hold the first patent for an eyelash curler.
You got that from a piece of rubber on it? You got all that from a piece of
Yeah.
rubber? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
well, I got it from so the shape of it was just really
Uh-huh.
recognizable because they had this other patent that I had already seen and studied. And so I was like, oh, this looks very, very similar. But the eyelash curler precedes it. So I knew that it had like I knew that it was related. I knew that it
Mhm.
probably had to be from the same era and possibly from the same manufacturer. It helps that she was also based in New York, and she told me that her family had been in New York for a long
Mhm.
time. So there was a possibility that she picked it up at a factory somewhere, or perhaps you know, at a five and dime, because that's where they sold those things.
Mhm.
So
Wow, that's crazy. That's some real historical digging right there. That's so cool. Also, wait, drop your YouTube channel name so everyone can know.
so currently, I think it's under Cici Andersen.
Mhm.
I also have the name of the series, which is Beauty Culturalist. That's also registered, but make sure that you hit my Cici Andersen one because that's the one that has the videos on it.
Okay. I'm gonna go and watch like a bunch of those right after this.
Awesome.
So
I love
yeah,
that.
for sure. No, this is so interesting to me. But
Yeah, and you can
anyway,
also catch them on Instagram. I usually upload them to both just because people just tend to be more active on other platforms these days, I think.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So last question. Um, this is supposed to be like a little fun, whatever. Do you have a favorite look for a night out? I know that's like there's a lot of different types of nights out, but or just a go-to look.
I'm a pretty big fan of colorful eyeliner
Mm-hmm.
and glitter. Like I'm not gonna lie. Glitter, I've known for wearing a lot of glitter. I love it. I don't think it ever goes out of style. It's just disco all the time.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, those were all my questions.
Well, they were great questions.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having me on your show.
No, thank you so much. I mean seriously, like I'm not just saying this to do whatever. Like that was so interesting to me. I learned like that's crazy. That's
Oh
crazy.
my
I
gosh, well
never thought
follow
about
me
so
on
many of these things.
Instagram, YouTube,
I'm
TikTok.
about to. I feel like I'm gonna log off of this. I'm gonna go look you up. Like it's gonna happen. Um,
I love it. I love it. And I
yeah.
hope everybody who is listening go out and see Together. It's a great movie.
Yes. I'm really excited. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm very excited too. Especially now that I've talked to you and I feel like I have more behind the scenes scoop. Um,
Oh yeah. Okay.
yeah. All the
Yeah,
tea.
you'll have to circle back and tell me what you think.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciated it. This was so interesting. It was really nice to meet you and talk to you.
You too. Thank you, Anna.